Father's Days to everyone there, and hopefully this is a day that you guys got to kick back and relax and just have the appreciation from all your kids just for being a dad. But if you don't, it's just busy like any other day, then at least you can rest in knowing that you're needed and that you're a treasured possession. And so we're looking at the book of Malachi today, and in the series of God is Second Chances. And he says that on that day, when I act, the Lord says Almighty, they will be my treasured possessions. I will spare them just as a father has compassion and spares his son who serves him. I don't know about you, but I have a little bit of a tension with that passage there. So what I did is I wrote a little poem there, just kind of express what that passage means to me. Battling thoughts being tossed in my head. I must beat up, mess up, put down. But it's only me doing all the swinging here. Loser, stupid, fool. Or what we say to ourselves. If anyone said the things that we say to ourselves, they would lock them up. The enemy is not very smart, but he is very good at one thing. Convincing us that we're no good, not loved, powerless. God tells us that he loves us over and over again, and that we are treasured. But we throw it right back at him, saying that we don't deserve his treasures. So we try to punish ourselves so that we will not have to face the real punishment that awaits us if we don't choose him. So we pretend he's not real. We pretend he's made up, thought up, so we don't have to face the real truth. Now I'll continue that. That's the first half of that message, of the passage there. But what was really struggling with me is we read that we're treasured possessions. But really, do we believe that? Do we believe in our hearts of hearts, in our soul, in our inner fibers, that we are loved by him? And I don't know about you, but I struggle with this. Because every time that I feel loved, I beat myself up. Because I don't know about you, but I'm a sinner. So every time I sin, I push myself a little bit farther away from God. And every time I do that, it's because I really don't believe that I deserve his love. Like I could do anything to gain his love. But it's newsflash, guys. We don't deserve his love. We deserve the full punishment. And it's only by his grace that saves us. It's only by him and the complete reliance on him that saves us. It's nothing that of our doing. Now, if the creator of the universe calls you treasured, made everything, and you even remotely believe that, don't you think you should take it seriously when he tells you that you're a treasured possession? So we should take this seriously. In Malachi, when he says, again, they should be mine, says the Lord of hosts. In the days when I make up my treasured possessions, I will spare them as a man spares his son who serves him. The other thing I also encourage you is also read different versions of the Bible. Sometimes you get different perspectives, so sometimes different translations just open things up. So I gave 2 translations there on the last one. So this really tells me, when you digest that we are special, that he's going to spare us, that there is a plan for us, so that we can be with him. So things aren't lost. He has a plan, and we follow that plan so that we can be with him. And he wants to be in relationship with us like it was meant to be. Now in the next verse of Malachi, and you will again see the distinction between the righteous and the wicked, between those who serve God and those who do not, those who are faithful to him and those who know him. He is calling his people back to himself. He's calling his people so that he's saying to us, I'm giving you lots of chances, but please take me seriously. Take me seriously. Because you see, it's not a guaranteed pass. It's not a guarantee. Just because we're treasured possessions, just because we're made in his image, and just because he loves us, and that we're special in his eyes, does not mean that we get a free pass. He is still just. And to get that pass, you need to know somebody. You need to know somebody with that VIP pass that when you enter that special place and you look at the guards and he said, it's okay, this one's with me. I got him covered. It's an exclusive club, guys. And you're not getting in unless if you know him and he knows you. And we want to get to that place that he puts his arms around us and he calls us, yes, me and my friend are going in. Now, you guys know that I couldn't do this sermon without talking about the amazing trip that I had to Honduras. It was absolutely amazing, which I have to apologize to a lot of people because I had to rewrite this about 4 or 5 times because I wrote this before I went to Honduras and then I wrote it afterwards and I had to rewrite it 5 times because your perspective changes when you surround yourself with that area. When you immerse yourself in a different culture, it changes almost everything. So one of the things that really kind of stood out to me, oh yeah, there is. That's one of the guys there that we met from one of the feeding guys, and the kids were so amazing. But one of the things that I noticed was just the pouring of love. I walked down the street, when we got there, we went up to a cafe with Anna, and there was a bunch of us that went up to the cafe. And as we were going through, now this is only a short trip to the cafe, just up the hill. Now, mind you, it's a big hill. It's all mountains there pretty much, but it's a big hill. And as we were going up, school buses of kids driving by screaming, Anna! And it was just amazing to witness. It's just how all the kids are sitting there just like jumping over themselves just to hug her, to touch her. Then we came back down the hill after we had a coffee. And again, people stopped their car, got out of their car just to give her a hug, to say how much they appreciated her. And it was just amazing that, and then when we were coming down the hill, there was another missionary that was there, and they hugged and embraced, and then they chatted about all the missionary stories and how to help each other and stuff, and she was given support that way too. It was just amazing how the ripple effect just spreads out, and just to be witness to that God, through somebody, can have a huge impact on the community that you serve. Now, on the last night, we got to drive around, and we got to pray for some street kids. That was very impactful. And I watched both Gordon and Anna just love on people. Just absolutely love on people that, the rest of us would just choose to forget. Didn't worry about, she was hugging on them, loving them. And one of the pastors, one of the missionaries that was there, he said, yes, we were given no food, but to them, food is not food. Food is hope. Food is love. And as he put it, they can find food in the trash can, but they can't find hope there. They can't find love there. And I would say what they're really looking for is the hope and love of Jesus. That's what they're looking for. And just having access to that. So picture this. We're driving in the streets, in the streets there, late at night. I was nervous to go in the first place. It's like, what do you mean you're going to these shady areas in the dark? It's just like, okay. So I was nervous to begin with because we were going to some areas. And we pulled up to one of the areas, and he beat the horn, and all the kids flooded out and just attacked us with just love. And then I was doing piggyback rides. I think Steve kept on saying, go over there in Spanish. I didn't know what he was saying, but he's like, yeah. So I had this big lineup of kids wanting to do piggyback rides. So it's all him. So anyways, I got my workout for that. And then we broke out in a game of soccer just in the middle of the streets after we fed all the people and stuff. Guys, it was just amazing to see that, A, we were welcome, and B, they just wanted to touch just the hope of Jesus that was flowing through us. And it was just amazing to see. And so we went to this other spot, which was a church. And it's a big, huge church, and there's a big courtyard. And so just kind of picture this. You have this big, huge church, you have this big, huge courtyard, and then in the distance, you can see the big, huge statue of Jesus with his hands open up. And then right behind you, you have some street kids who are lost. And they can see the doors, but the enemy is telling them that it's not good enough to enter. Now, partly it's because of their mind, Partly because of their addictions that they're fighting, but also because the church itself was not reaching out to them. It's right outside their doors. Right outside our doors, love thy neighbors. And they can see the hope, but they can't touch the hope. I can't help to think about how history is repeating itself. In Jesus' day, the Gentiles were allowed in the courtyard, but they weren't allowed in the temple. They were forbidden to be in the temple. And so all the people are outside the temple suffering, while the people are inside trying to see what's meant to be spiritual. When all they had to do is to go outside their doors and to reach out their hand and help his people on his behalf. That's what it means to be spiritual. And guys, I'm guilty of this myself. How many times have I not bothered to connect with somebody? Not bothered just to make that connection, thinking, you know what, they're good. They got a car, they got a nice, wonderful family, good job. They go to soccer practice all the time, but their soccer practice is on every Sunday. They might not know what they're missing, but they are missing something, and they know it. And them and many others have a big, deep hole that can only be filled with Jesus. So when I was up there, we had to go up to a couple different centers. So we were basically going from one meeting to the next. But through some of these spots, they were poor areas. So we had to pass through 2 gang territories to get through there. And it kind of got me thinking about access. You need to know somebody to go through those spots. You need to go because they're gang territories, so you need to know. And you need someone to cover you. Now, because we're a missionary and because we were with Alvin and Carlos, they gave us access. This got me thinking that, really Jesus is the key, and he wants us to know him because we are God's treasured possessions to those who are faithful to him. So to get to these areas, we need Jesus. Honestly, guys, like the one thing that hit me the most is that he allows us into those really poor areas. And they allow us to service those areas, and it's all because of him. So you don't want to go to the judgment gates without knowing someone. You need to know that Jesus vouches for me. Because you don't want to get there someday and then remember, it's like, well, I think I know Jesus. I remember some of the stuff he did. I know he has a cool birthday because when on his birthday I get gifts. So, and I also know that he makes wine. Mm-hmm. And he's probably in a movie that Mel Gibson made. So let me just say that probably wouldn't go over too well. If you don't know him, how do you expect to call him your friend? Canada is only 150 years old, and it's only a 150-year-old experiment. In a short amount of time, my grandmother, who's turning 100 this year, woohoo, Granny, her father would have been around for the foundation of Canada. So when you think about that, that's pretty amazing that we think we got it all figured out here. But we shouldn't think that history can't repeat itself. We shouldn't think that things can't happen again. Because the enemy's not very smart, but he's very good at a few simple things. Sexual lust, greed, envy, pride, that's nothing new. But he keeps on using it to pull us away from God. He uses it to put a wedge between us and God in the relationship. And he's very good at that. But this is why God warns us so many times and gives us so many opportunities to return back to him. And we should take him up on that opportunity. You see, in the book of Malachi, it was written 100 years after the Israelites came back to Jerusalem. And they rebuilt the temple with the high hopes that the Messiah would come and change everything, and they'll establish their new kingdom. But it turned out that they were just as corrupt as the last generation. They married people who didn't believe in God. They took up new idols. They made society about tolerance and acceptance. They took gods over their homes. They took gods over their institutions. They took gods over their schools, allowing them to believe whatever they wanted to believe. Does this sound remotely similar to Canada? God had become less important to the point that they didn't know that they didn't even know. The book of Malachi, so in the book, the way the book is structured, God would ask a question. So God would say, "You have sinned against me." And they would reply, "How did we sin against you?" They didn't even know the totality of what they were doing. History can repeat itself. Sometimes we get caught up in the noise of our busy lives, and we try not to think about it. We try not to spend any time thinking about the grace that God has extended to us. Sometimes, in our minds, stealing a piece of gum is not as serious as stealing a car. We don't even think about the dishonesty. When people call us on it, then we're like, "What are you talking about?" We're oblivious to our sinful nature. You see, I gotta be honest, I used to love Failed Army. Loved it. And if anyone on YouTube, if anyone doesn't know what Failed Army is, it's when people are doing tricks and stuff and they fail. and I got some satisfaction from that. Watching back-to-back clips of people falling on their faces. And then Melissa's like, "You're still watching that?" It's like, yeah, but it's funny. And it's like, come on. It's just like, they're riding the shopping cart. They're idiots for falling on their face. They deserve to get hurt. Now, come on. Right? Until my daughter calls me out on it. My daughter basically said, "I'm judging people and I'm enjoying it." So that kind of makes you reevaluate the things that I watch. And see, you know what the thing is? The problem with the internet is that it desensitizes you to certain things. And sooner or later, next thing you know, you're watching people break their arms, lose their limbs, and then all of a sudden it becomes okay. So the problem is that it creeps up on you just like sin does. Little by little, the sin becomes, a small sin becomes a really big sin. And but what we need to remember in God's eyes, sin is sin. Whether you think it's big or small, when we understand our sin, we often feel ashamed, worthless of God's acceptance. Then we allow ourselves to define who we are by our sin. Because, if I want to say, it's like, "Hey, what am I supposed to do? That's who I am." Ever hear that? That's who I am. I criticize people. "Hey, I'm a man. That's who I am." What, I'm not supposed to look at her? Did you see what she had on? What? Is that how I'm supposed to do? Sin doesn't have to define you. Sin does not have to define who you are. He has better things for us. He has much better things. But you need to be faithful in knowing who He is. He does love us. We are treasured. And He does have a plan for us. This is why He continuously warns us and gives us chances to break the bonds of sin so that we can be with Him. So we don't allow our sins to define us. So I had an opportunity when I was there, and I signed up for Compassion Canada, and I had an opportunity to meet William. And this is his family. Now, I sponsored him for a couple years, and honestly, guys, I didn't think nothing of it. I gave a little bit, it might go to them, and I was very skeptical, go figure. It's like, didn't know if it would even have impact on his life. Didn't write him that often, to be honest. But it really, once I got to meet him, he's a real boy with a real family, real dreams, real love, just wants to play and enjoy life. And the sponsorship gives him nourishment for his mind. It allows him to not be hungry so he can focus on school. It gives him basic school needs. They also help him on social skills and things that he would need to survive, to overcome gang life, to overcome things in he lives right beside a dump. His family makes a living by rummaging through the dump to get things. This is the first time he was at Pizza Hut. We took him to Pizza Hut. We said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want pizza." So you got it. And then we took him to a mall. He'd never been to a mall before. Didn't know what an escalator was. So that was the ride. That we rode up and down the escalator. That was the adventure ride, right? And it's like, and the other thing too is that when we were there, he kept on touching me, and it's like, what are you touching me, right? And at first it was a little weird, but he kept on touching me. And Gordon explained it to me afterwards that sponsorship is hope to them. Sponsorship is hope not only for him, but for his whole family, that they can break the bonds of poverty. And if you're a little boy, wouldn't you want to touch hope? So that really touched me, to be honest. That really touched my heart that we had to connect. And what we do up here has huge impacts down there. That's all I can say about that. When we were on the streets, there's another missionary there, Pastor Scott, and when we went out there, he was talking about this lady, Brenda, who's living on the streets. And he just absolutely unconditionally loved her. And so when we first got there, she wasn't around. And we looked for her, and there's really nobody around. So the disappointment on his face, it was just amazing to see how much it was hurt that he couldn't find her. So we waited for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden she appears. And it was just like a long-lost child just come to him. And he ran over and gave her a big hug. And they prayed together and had an opportunity to pray together. And he just loved on her, just loved them where they were at. So after we prayed, he asked her, "Do you want to be off the streets?" And he said that, "I'll make arrangements." She said yes. "I'll make arrangements this week to help you get off the streets." Because not everyone wants to get off the streets, but she does. And so after that, I think Anna, we got her some shoes, I think. And then after that, we were driving around delivering food, and we came underneath this overpass where there's some people getting high on glue and stuff like that. And there she was, getting right back into her habit. Now, I got to admit to me, if that was me up here, and I'd done a lot of youth work, I'm guilty of this, saying, "I just gave you a way out, and you're going to do this. You have the opportunity right here, and you're going to blow it." But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. He didn't miss a beat. He just kept on loving her, gave her a way out, just like Jesus would have. Sorry, guys. What I learned is he loves us in our chaos. He loves us unconditionally where we're at. He loves them where they're at, and he loves you where you're at. And there's nothing that you could do to break that love. You just need to open up your arms, and he's right there. What I learned, I'll just read a passage here. Blessed is the one who preserves under the trial, because having stood the test, the people have received the crown of life, and the Lord has promised to those who love him. He's not giving up on us. And he has great things for us, guys. So what I've learned is to be grateful for what we have. There's a whole new appreciation to what we have. I showed William, we were going through the pictures, and he's seen a picture of my house. And he's like, Gran Casa. And it's just like, which means big house. And I was like, well, it's a duplex, it's half that. And he's like, no, Gran Casa. It's like, that's a big house. I've seen poverty before, but I've never seen anything like this. And just the realization that people are living in these conditions, but being grateful for what they had. They had a because they don't have all the noise, they had a great appreciation of who God is. And the beautiful faces of all the kids, it stuck to me. And my heart just went out to them. We're living in abundance, and we often don't even know it. We complain about the things that really don't matter. What I did notice and was they appreciate everything. They thank God for everything. That was one thing. They welcomed us to their homes. They were proud of the homes that they were welcoming us to. They were shacks, and they were proud to show us that because God gave them that in the midst of that. And they were proud to show us in there because at least there was a shelter over their head. So that, yeah. The other thing that I found that was interesting is that there was nobody really panhandling in the streets and stuff. It's because everyone's poor. Everyone's in the same situation. And because everyone's in the same situation, there's a greater sense of community. I've seen ladies up there delivering corn to some of their fellow neighbors to help them out. There was more of a sense to lend out your helping hand to the neighbor to help each other. There wasn't, this is mine, so get out my face like we have up here. It was more, let's help each other, and so that we can overcome this. And we can only do this with God. And the other thing that was really interesting is that when we went up to these really poor areas, right to the left was the church. The church was right there. And that is the hope for people. The other thing, too, is that because we had to pass through 2 gang territories, as scary as, and I just finished watching a documentary on these guys. They're bad. I won't say who they are, but they're bad. But they gave us access. A, because the people we knew. B, because we're missionaries. But really, they don't want to mess with God. As bad as they are, and as weird as that sounds, they'll kill people on a dime, but they don't want to mess with God. Now, they don't live like they're walking with the Lord, but they don't want to mess with them. And because of that, that is the only hope. The other thing that I came to realization is that if someone was in the gang life and they were want to get out of the gang, and they didn't have any debts, they could give their life to the Lord, and the gang would give them a pass because they respect God that much. Now, they have to be very serious, because if they're not serious and they see them even stray a little tiny bit, they'll kill them. So they have to be serious. However, just the idea that Jesus is still making moves in areas like that. And if there's hope there, there's definitely hope here. You see, Jesus is the righteous one when we're unrighteous. Jesus is the faithful one when we're unfaithful. When I accept Jesus into my life, he measures up for me because I can't. I can never do it on my own strength. In some ways, Honduras is a little ahead of us on certain things. They don't have the distractions and the pull away from God. And sometimes we collect stuff. We collect stuff because we say, yes, I deserve that. But when it comes to God's love, we sell ourselves short. And there's nothing wrong with stuff. Don't get me wrong on that. But don't sell yourself short on what God has in store for you. I encourage you just to simplify your life. Reduce the noise and focus on him. He will give you directions to what is really important. Just get back to the basics. Back to reading the Bible. Get back to finding out what is the heart of God. Discover the relationship that is available to you, to me, and to everybody. To those who are faithful in him, he wants to give you access to himself. To be in a relationship, there's give and take, though. He wants to know you, but he also wants you to know him. And he wants you to give access to your heart so that you can clean things up if you let him. You are his treasured possessions. And so are we. So, I don't know how far I am here. I'm going to wrap it up. I'll get the worship team to come up. I encourage you this week, guys, to read the book of Malachi. I encourage you to, it's a short book, and just look at the comparison of how the Israelites and Canada are, and that history can repeat itself if you just don't focus on our past, and just start to understand God's character. Just understand that we trust His promises, and that we are His treasured possessions. That He wants us to return to Him, to ones who are faithful, and He encourages us to learn something new. I want you to encourage you to learn something new about God this week. Just read it and just understand His character. I'll read the last little bit here. And now if you obey me and keep my full covenant, then out of all the nations you will be my treasured possessions, although the whole world is mine. So even though He owns the whole world, He still wants us as His treasured possessions. Now let me go back to that poem that I started writing before. And I'll complete it, but I'll also read it in the light of knowing who Jesus is. Battling thoughts being tossed in my head. I must beat up, mess up, put down. But it's only me doing all the swinging here. Stupid, loser, fool, or what we say to ourselves. If anyone said the things that we said, they would get locked up. The enemy is not smart, but he is very good at one thing, convincing us that we're not good, not loved, and powerless. God tells us over and over again that we are His treasured possessions. But we throw that treasure right back at Him, saying that we don't deserve your treasures. So we try to punish ourselves so that we don't have to face the real punishment that awaits us if we don't choose Him. So we pretend He's not real, made up, so we don't have to face the truth. The truth is that we're hopeless without Him. The truth is that He does love us. That we are His treasured possessions. He already knows you. Don't you think it's time that you get to know Him? He made the universe. He knows a thing or two about life, peace, happiness, harmony, joy, love. So let's live like we were meant to live. Represent like we ought to be. Allow Him to shine from within me. Let Christ here to lead me. So I can love like I know I can. Cry like a real man. Share His word like a real fan. Drop to my knees to show real strength. Praying that keeps my mind straight. He tells me that forgiveness is real smart. And knowing Him frees my heart. This is not an illusion. There is a conclusion to this confusion. He is returning, He's reclaiming, He is renaming what is His. We come to this session to learn the lessons, to realize the truth, that we are His treasured possessions. Thank you.